The history of American aviation is filled with extraordinary achievements, but only a handful of names remain etched in the national memory. With the same strength as Chuck Yeager and Richard Dick Bong, two men who could not have been more different, yet both defined what courage, skill, and American spirit meant at a time when the world depended on them. This is not just the story of their accomplishments, it is a tribute to an entire generation that flew, fought, and pushed the limits of what humanity thought was possible. Chuck Yeager was born in rural West Virginia in 1923, in a place where few people ever dreamed of leaving the ground, much less breaking through it. As a young man, Yeager joined the U.S. Army Air Forces during World War II and quickly revealed a natural gift for flight. His commanders often said he had air in his blood, an instinct for flying that could not be taught. In the skies over Europe, inside the cockpit of a P-51 Mustang, Yeager proved himself again and again. He fought in brutal dogfights, escaped death by inches, and showed a level of calm under pressure that bordered on supernatural. Each mission seemed to challenge him more, and each time he rose to meet it, surviving what many others did not. But the moment that would define Yeager and aviation history came after the war. In 1947, with a cracked rib he didn't tell the doctors about, Yeager climbed into the rocket-powered Bell X-1, painted bright orange and named Glamorous Glennis. The mission was simple in words and terrifying in reality: break the sound barrier. At the time, many believed an aircraft would violently tear apart if it approached Mach 1. The controls would freeze, the metal would buckle, and the pilot would not survive. But Yeager wasn't intimidated. He believed that barriers existed only to be crossed. When the sonic boom echoed across the Mojave Desert that day, humanity officially entered the supersonic age. And when Yeager landed, he didn't celebrate or act like a hero. He just walked away quietly, as if he had done nothing more than another routine test flight. That humility, paired with unimaginable bravery, is what made Yeager a legend. While Yeager was pushing the boundaries of science and flight, another American hero was carving his name into history. In a very different way, Richard Dick Bong, born in 1920 in Wisconsin, grew up with a fascination for engines, speed, and the open sky. During World War II, he became a pilot of the P-38 Lightning, one of the most iconic, powerful, and challenging fighters of the war. But Bong mastered it as if he had been born inside its cockpit. His fellow pilots said no one could pull performance out of a P-38 the way Bong could. He seemed to dance through the air, making an aircraft of metal and fire respond like something alive. In the Pacific theater, Bong quickly became America's top fighter ace, shooting down 40 enemy aircraft, an American record that still stands. But what truly made him beloved was not just his unmatched skill, it was his heart. Bong was known for his gentle nature, for always putting his squadron first, and for risking his life repeatedly to protect others. He sometimes abandoned perfect attack positions just to defend another pilot in trouble. He didn't fight for medals or numbers. He fought for the men beside him and for the country he loved. His heroism gained national attention, and eventually General MacArthur himself ordered Bong out of combat, fearing America might lose its most gifted ace. Bong returned home, still humble, still dedicated, and continued serving as a test pilot for the military's new generation of jet aircraft. But fate dealt a tragic blow. On August 6, 1945, the same day America learned of the nuclear bombing of Hiroshima, Dick Bong lost his life in a testing accident in California. He was only 24. His passing was overshadowed by the world-changing headlines of that day. But to those who knew his story, his death was a profound national loss. Chuck Yeager and Dick Bong represent two sides of the same American spirit. One conquered the skies with raw daring, smashing through the barrier that once represented the edge of the possible. The other dominated aerial combat with unmatched skill and humility, becoming the greatest ace the United States has ever produced. Their paths were different, their missions were different, but their legacy is shared. They embody the courage, sacrifice, and innovation that defined their generation. For millions of Americans who lived through the war years, or who grew up hearing the stories from parents and grandparents, these men symbolize more than military history. They represent a time when ordinary citizens rose to extraordinary heights. They remind us of the cost of freedom, the strength of determination, and the remarkable things the human spirit can achieve when it refuses to bow to fear. Today, long after their final flights, their stories continue to move us, not because they are tales of perfect heroes, but because they are stories of real Americans who answered the call of history. Yeager showed the world that no barrier is truly impossible. Bong showed that greatness can come wrapped in kindness, humility, and devotion to others, to lives, to legacies. Intertwined in the sky they conquered, and as long as these stories are told, the courage of that era will never fade.